What is up, everybody? My name's Slaggy, and if you're here, it's most likely because you've discovered Voodoo Fishing. It's a new early access kind of social horror fishing game, and it's got a lot of intricate things that you kind of pick up and learn on the way so you can become a fisherman. And I'm here to give you guys a more comprehensive and developed guide. I know I've been trying to enjoy playing, and for the first couple days I just could not do it. I was trying to figure things out. I was dying constantly. I was catching nothing, especially not the fish of the day. So I decided to put some stuff together, talk with some more experienced players in game and in Discord, and just kind of pick up on things on my own, as well as try to check out some other guides, whether there's like one or two on YouTube, and it's great, but it doesn't cover everything, and it still takes a lot of experience to kind of get used to the game. So I'm going to be here with my list of things that I've written down to kind of give you guys a more comprehensive guide to things you may be questioning, things you may have heard and understand but are still confused about, so you can become a good voodoo fisher as well, and you can actually fully enjoy the game to everything it has to offer. During this video, I will be cutting it all up into segments for you guys. So if you know some of this stuff and you want to, just jump to like what's going on with the bait, jump to like, hey, what are these habitats actually supposed to look like? Or if you want to jump to like avoiding enemies or how to loot properly, you can. Or if you want the entire rundown and you're like, I have no idea, just like how I was, you could just watch the entire thing. All right. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna hop into a private game, and I'm going to be running down my list of information. So if you see me looking over here, it's because I've written down keynotes after, kind of breaking down everything that I feel like was missing that isn't really explained in the game. So right when you spawn in, as you guys may know, you're going to be having your cooler, which is where you store your fish, the spawn outhouses. We're going to have the information journal with, the achievements, recipes, the type of voodoo fish, and the fish, which we will give a deeper rundown on. You're gonna have your shop here, which just covers some reels you can buy, some bait you can buy, and some rods. Ooh, little snappy. You're gonna want that bait, and I will tell you why once we get there. And then this right here is where you're gonna be selling your fish, where you're gonna have the daily bounties, which rotates daily, and it's going to have different tiered fish that you can catch, and then how much per pound you're going to get. So it's kind of like things you want to fish for, but it's not a super big requirement. So to get started first, what we're going to be going through is our reels and our rods. So these right here and these. So right when you get started, you're going to have obviously a starter reel, a starter rod, which is going to be the basic spin. It is a bottom rod, which means that whenever you cast it out, your bait is going to float to the bottom, right? That's depth is going to be at. So that means it's going to catch any type of fish that are preferred to be on the bottom. But as you can see here, it's casting distance. It's not very big at all. Whenever you collect other ones, you can kind of see how that bar is going up. And if we go here and we click on it, you can kind of see, a more in-depth version of that. So if you're ever confused or you need a rehash, you can always go to the shop and get, this right here, that little ruler symbol on the reel is the line length. So the total line on the reel, more room for when a fish decides to run. So the more line length you have means that you have more play distance whenever you're actually fishing. So if the fish bolts off, if it's shooting left and right a lot, you don't have to worry about your line snapping as much. And then you have the water depth, like I was saying. So that's going to get broken down into 3 at the moment. You're going to have a bottom, a pelagic, and a top. And all that means is bottom is going to be anything on that reel is going to be going down to the bottom. Your pelagic, I'm pretty sure it means it's going to be in the center area. And then all the top ones means that the bait's going to be floating on the top of the water. As you collect other reels, you are going to see, same with fish preferences, you're going to see something like this where it's 2. So you can have pelagic bottom, pelagic top. I haven't seen a top bottom. I don't know. I don't think that one exists. But all this means, it doesn't mean that it's both at once. It means that it can fish for fish that are on top or fish that are on bottom, or fish that are in palladium. So it can be top and pelagic. It can be bottom and pelagic. And all that means is that it's kind of covering more than one. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to increase your odds. I personally, though, I prefer if I see something that says bottom, I'm almost always choosing my pelagic bottom, or if it says top, I'm almost always choosing pelagic top, just because it does give a little extra leeway. And my pelagic reels, at the moment at least, have the furthest line distance, so I just choose those. So getting into rods, you're going to have your basic rod here, which is the cheap rod. You can see stat wise, I can see like it looks like a fishing rod with a strength thing. It's not that great. An erratic fishing pole going like that, it looks all right. And then we have a little symbol with water and an arrow. So what does that mean? You know, when I'm picking up these rods, because there's all these different types of rods, what am I actually wanting to look for other than large bar means bigger? You know what I mean? So same thing here. You can go to the shop and we'll click on this one, Lafoy and La Apa. All right, it's $36, a little pricey, and we'll get into your money management, finances, and how to do better with that. But kind of like the reels, you can see what this actually means. So the fishing rod with the weight up top, that's the strength of your rod. It says here how much tension the rod can take before it stops fighting. So if it has more, it means that it can take a lot of tension, it can fight with more aggressive fish, and it can hold it without the fish breaking the line, so you can stay in the fight longer. With the rebound, which is the one going like this, it means that it's going to have quicker recovery whenever it pulls. So higher rebound means more responsiveness. So whenever you fight fish, especially more erratic type fish, they're going to be bolting left and right, and you kind of have to, you know, follow which way it's tugging left and right. So the higher this bar up means that you have more responsiveness with it, which gives you a better chance of not breaking the line, especially with more legendary fish that are bouncing all over the place. And then the bottom one is cast distance, so how far your line can reach. Further casts open up spots you can't wade to. Wading is just means that if you can't walk in that type of water, or if you can't get through, you know, closer to the shoreline, you can cast out farther instead. Now, whenever you're creating your rods, and you know, we have a fish like, maybe let's just say it's a bottom fish, we're gonna put things together, right? We're gonna create our rod through the ones that you'll be collecting. So let's say here I have the sticks and stones reel, a pelagic bottom. It has a, you know, an okay distance. So I'm gonna grab that. You know, if I had a bottom one that was longer, you know, at a further cast distance, I would usually choose that. But for this example, we'll use pelagic bottom. And then for my rod, you know, as you pick these up, you can either have what I say is like a well-rounded rod, or when we get into the fish, like a very specific rod. You know, maybe it has like a one really good stat that's good against fighting that fish. But I like to use something like the Old Man Stands premium rod. The stats are pretty distant. It has an okay cast distance, but I usually use my Bone Roddy, which right now is my best rod. So as you can see, it has a huge stat bar for strength, so I don't have to worry about hooking a stronger fish than what my rod can handle. It has, you know, the responsiveness is but I can still fight left and right with it. And then it has like a 25% for the cast distance. Okay, so when we have both of these together, let me just put on my grappling hook so I don't waste anything. When we have both of these together, right, we can combine the casting distance. So I can cast super far. Oh, actually, I just cast to the distance, so you can see it's flashing. That's about as far as it can go. Right here would be where it snaps, but that's really far. So we're gonna go ahead and reel this in. So that has a really good combined casting distance. You know, I don't have to worry about not being able to cast out far enough or the fish running. And if you guys are having a situation where you have like the, you know, an okay rod, and you're using like the cheap reel, casting distance wise, that's as far as it's going. You know, that's my max throw. I'll try to do it harder real quick. Yeah. So if you're having the issue where you're trying to cast out and you're like, dude, I can't even cast that far. I mean, the second the second you get any fish, it bolts off and your line breaks. Your casting distance isn't good enough, and the strength on the rod isn't great. So you want to work on finding, you know, kind of what works in those categories, so you can build a rod that's better. I'll go back to my bone Rarity for this example. And also, like here, the Cajun Flex, see the rest of the stats are decent. Like that could probably fight a decent sized fish, but its rebound responsiveness is super good. So I can cast this thing out, and when it goes to being left and right, I can freaking all day. You know what I mean? All day I can fight with what's on it. It's something you got to consider. Oh, come on here. Also, for an example, if you have a problem with fishing, you're gonna see it move left and right. Whenever you're fighting the fish, you're going in the direction that it's going, and then it'll tire out, and then you pull it in. You'll see your rod bend, right? If you have good flexibility, it can have better responsiveness, and if you have good strength, you can fight it. But just fight it left and right. It'll get tired. If it starts going out too far, give it a couple reels. But once it gets tired, it'll slow down. You can start reeling it in. Like I was saying, you can always go to the shop to kind of refer on these stats, and you can always go back to get a better definition of what they're doing. And then the rest is kind of just muscle memory experience from actually fishing. And some of these can get insanely pricey. Like, look, this one's $136. You know, you'll see super good ones that are like $400. You'll see rods, especially like the Elite, it's like $900. And you know, we can't even catch a fish right now. How are we supposed to get that money? You know, we're buying bait. And what we're gonna try to do is avoid buying from this place as much as possible, unless it's a bait that you really want, like a legendary. So now that we got done with the reel and the rod, we now have to kind of understand what's going on with the bait here. So as you can see, right when you go to the shop, you have all of these different baits, you have all these types of symbols, and we're like, okay, these seem great, but what do they mean? So whenever you're looking at your bait, where it's going to have common, and then you're going to have your uncommon baits, and then you're going to have I'll go down one more, your rare baits, which are purple, right? And then you're going to have your legendary bait, and then you have enchanted after that. So whenever we're going fishing, if you find yourself, you're like, I'm not really catching rare fish, or I'm not catching legendary fish, it's almost always your bait. What's your business? You gonna catch fish with me, buddy? So the way that this game has it set up is based on the rarity of the bait determines the rarity of the fish that you're going to be catching. So if I'm fishing with this crusty gummy bear, for example, I'm only going to be catching common fish. That's it. And that means, especially in this example, common fish that like chewy, sweet, or oily. If I'm fishing with this uncommon used fork, I'm only going to be catching uncommon and common fish. So it'll be that rarity and then the one below it. So you usually want to, you know, build up the money, you know, try to get and loot rarer bait. But once you have an idea of what you need to be doing, you're almost always going to be fishing with rare, legendary, or enchanted bait because it gives you the best odds, right? So if I'm going out and fishing for, you know, the fish of the day, and I want the mud dragon, right? I'm going to be choosing either a rare, which is the purple, or a legendary bait, which is the gold, which means that I can catch either rare, the mud dragon type fish, or if I'm using legendary bait, I can fish common, uncommon, rare, or legendary fish. It's all there. And if you're going for the voodoo fish, you need to have an enchanted bait, which I will teach you guys how to craft. Voodoo only comes to enchanted. And as a little tip, if you just go out in general, now this is what I do. If I'm looking for the slippery lily, I'm not going to be using just legendary bait. I'm going to be using an enchanted legendary bait because enchanted baits in general attract rarer fish. So you have a higher, like a way higher chance of catching a legendary with enchanted bait. And that bait will stay enchanted until you catch a voodoo fish. Once you catch a voodoo fish, it loses its enchantment. You have to re-enchantment after that. So that's kind of like how the bait rarity goes. And instead of buying the bait, especially in the beginning, you want to kind of be looking out for like briefcases, treasure chests like that. You want to be looking out for crates, coffins, refrigerators out in the water. Let's see if I can catch this. So instead of buying the bait, we built our rod so we have a farther casting distance. but we want to put the grappling hook on, which is always going to be on the front page, top right. And you have an infinite number of grappling hooks. You don't have to find them. You don't have to buy them. Every time the line breaks, you will always be able to re-put the grappling hook on. But we're looking for things like this chest here. But I'm just going to kind of drag this chest over here. Most of the time you can jump over and open them up, but these will always have bait in them. There's also a really low chance, especially in coffins and refrigerators, for there to be a reel or a rod. I've had a buddy pick up a really, really good and rare rod that way. Like, look, this one just had money. Sometimes it'll have, legendary bait in there. Sometimes it has like 2. So you kind of want to, join in on a game right when you join, do a quick roundabout of the map, and loot up any of the containers that haven't been opened yet to try to stash up your bait and just kind of hoard bait like that, because you never know when you're going to want to use it. And then once you have some money, you can cycle through here. If you see a legendary you want, you can buy it. But we kind of want to be saving up. That way we can get a better rod and reel to put together. So classifications of the bait. What does it mean whenever I'm looking at a bait and I see things like this, right? All of these symbols, in your tackle box, you're never going to be able to see what it means exactly. So you can either have a reference sheet up, or you can do like what I had to do and kind of reference it through here, or reference it through the shop here. It doesn't give a super big description, but it gives a name, and that's really all you need. So each bait's going to have the classifiers of what attributes the bait gives. So when we're looking at a fish, we're going to see that this bucket mouth here likes reflective, colorful, erratic, and loud bait. Okay, now this doesn't mean that you have to use a bait that has all of these. I'm not even sure if there is a specific bait that has all of them. And most of the time, the bait that you will be using won't be able to have all of them, right? You just technically need a bait that has one of these preferences. So in order to catch this common bucket mouth, I would need a common or higher bait that at least has one of these. So it could have reflective, colorful, erratic, loud. It could have just one. You increase your chances of catching that fish whenever you have multiples of them on the same bait. So for example, reflective, colorful, erratic, loud, I would be looking for a bait that's common or higher. We want to usually go for a higher rarity. So let's see here. This has reflective. Let's see here. Here we go. This rubber ducky has colorful and loud. That's a good example of one I can use that would give me better chances. This oily cut school, it only has erratic on it, so I would want something with a little bit more. This one right here, reflective, and erratic. So that's kind of how you want to be deciding which bait to use. And it kind of seems like an RNG thing to kind of figure out what is going to be working best, but there are better baits than others when fishing for specific fish. For example, the lily today, which is the daily one, this slippery lily, this is the daily fish today. It's a legendary fish. It's a little harder to catch, and we had to find the perfect habitat, which we'll get into, but it likes rotten, savory, and salty. So it likes some of these, and what that came down to was I was finding that I was really catching it the most with this enchanted chicken leg, and it only has savory on it. And it can be like that, just because it doesn't have everything, it doesn't mean that it's the best version. Probably it being an enchanted turkey leg helps, but it just had one bait preference, and I was still able to catch that fish. So when it comes to figuring out what fish you want to do, this is probably where people get tripped up the most. This and habitats, which we'll get into both of them together in a way. So we want to catch a fish. Now you can do this in 2 ways. You can just go out and fish, right? And you can say, all right, I want a double, a pelagic top, so I can increase the fish pool that I have. And I'm going to use this enchanted bait with a lot of things on it. I'm going to cast it out and I'll catch whatever. That is one way to do it. And if you do it like that, or same if you are going to specifically find a fish and hunt, keep in mind that it's not always like this, but a lot of times the closer you are to spawn, the more uncommon and common the fish are going to be. right? This game rewards you for exploring. It is harder to get out, but the more you travel, you are going to understand how to get around a little easier, and you can get into further back areas. So like even just going back here and fishing in an area like this, you're going to be finding a lot more, rare fish. And same with like, it's not necessarily that it's dangerous, it's just further out, and the further out you are, you're going to see that a lot of the habitats mix together, and you have a better fishing pool. You're going to be catching more rare fish, so don't be afraid to kind of go out and explore to find a better fishing spot. May I rest in peace. But yeah, so going further out and finding spots is definitely the better way to do that. But if you do want to find the fish and you are trying to, kind of get a muscle memory and experience on like, seeing a fish and being like, this is where I need to go, what we want to do is open up our handy dandy journal. Again, it's right at spawn, and we're going to find the fish that we want. And we got all these types of fish that we can go through. Whenever you see the fish that you want to catch, we have to go down. We have to do the rundown. So this is a legendary fish. All right, it's going to be harder. It's a pelagic top. So that means that the reel I'm going to be using is going to be either a pelagic reel or a top reel or a pelagic top. Right, let's increase our odds here. For the bait preference, it likes rotten, savory, and salty. And don't forget, it's also a legendary fish. So what we're going to be doing here is finding a legendary or enchanted bait, right? Because that's going to be within its region. And we want something that's either savory, salty, or rotten. So we have a couple options here. We can use the bald eagle feet that has rotten on it. We can use, let's see here, the turkey leg, which I've been using, which has savory on it, and it's enchanted. So I'm more guaranteed to catch a rare fish in general. And I don't think I have a salty legendary right now. I'm pretty sure the 1,000-year egg is salty. But you see how my mind's clicking, right? We're going to be finding at least one of these preferences with at a minimum the legendary, or at a minimum the rarity that it's asking for. So if it was this mud dragon here, we would want a rare or legendary or enchanted bait, right? Rare or higher in order to catch this fish. Now that we have what bait we're going to use, so for this example, I'm going to use my enchanted turkey leg. We have to figure out the habitat, and also up here, I notice a lot of people don't look at this. We have to figure out what kind of rod and reel that we're going to be putting together to fight this fish, right? This fish has a lot of fight to it. It's going to have a decent run, but like if you see the gar in this game, the run's maxed out, which means right when it hooks, it's going to bolt. So if we don't have a rod and reel that can go out far enough, the second we hook it, it's going to bolt out, it's going to break the line. So we have to figure out how we're going to build it. And then we have the endurance here. It says how long the argument lasts, total time the fish is willing to spend disagreeing with you. So we can expect a decent fight, and it's going to be very strong. It's going to be tugging on the line, and it's going to be kind of pulling back and forth, kind of running. For this, my rod works great. I'm going to use the Bone Ready, right? It has decent strength. It has we saw how far it can cast out, so it has a good casting length. So if it runs, I can still fight it. And the responsiveness is decent, so I'm going to be able to fight back and forth with it. If we were using like the cheap rod, or even this bamboozler here, there's a chance that right when I snag the fish, it could take off, or it could pull too hard left or too hard right and break my rod instantly, and now I've lost my bait. But yeah, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna use the Bone Roddy because it has decent stats to fight against it. The Diesel Fly, it has good casting distance, and it meets the pelagic top preference. Now we have to figure out the habitats here. So this habitat that it's wanting is muddy bottom, open water, or water pools. Okay, it has to be at least one of these. A lot of times you can find, especially whenever you go out farther, you're going to find multiple habitat requirements in one location. So we're going to give a rundown of what these look like, and then we're going to go back to identifying it for this fish. Something like this right here, this is going to be your docks, right? And you're going to see docks like this all over the place. And as long as you're fishing within the area, you're fishing within the docks. Location like this counts as open water, right? And if you see how the water is moving, this is fast water, right? You see like it's a lot of ripples. It's going at a really, really fast pace. There is some confusion when it gets into shoreline and muddy. So in some of the screenshots, especially from the Discord, you're going to see that this right here counts as muddy, as a muddy bottom, right? And what that looks like is you're going to have these brown rocks that are kind of sticking up. Okay, and the best way to identify this is the texture on it, because you're gonna have like rocks that are like this, you know, in a rocky bottom or a rocky area, and then you're gonna have the muddy bottoms that are brown rocks. They have the swirls on them, and then you're gonna have your shoreline, which also has swirls, but it's gonna be something you walk on. See, like this. You're gonna be using it to navigate the terrain a lot, but it's gonna have this green kind of grassy texture with the swirls. Oh, there's something evil. Ooh. What I've noticed is with the muddy bottom area, they're going to say that something like this is your muddy bottom, right? This signals that there is a muddy bottom underneath it with these rocks. What I've noticed is that some of the muddy bottoms that still are that still count as a muddy bottom are actually going to look like shorelines. And I'm going to show you a spot that I found that kind of resembles this. Okay, here we go. So what we have here, like this right here, it has the green lines in it. You know, there's grass on it. You can tell that this, with the swirl textures, this is a shoreline right here. But this right here that I'm standing on is it's it's a brown rock, just like the rocks that were up that count as your muddy bottoms, but I'm standing on it like a shoreline. And a big identifier to tell the difference is that there's not green lines on this. You see what I mean? The swirls are a lot bigger than what the shoreline has. So this right here is also a muddy bottom. Whenever you're looking around for muddy bottoms and shorelines, you know, that's kind of the identifier that you can have. So shoreline, muddy bottom, they look the same, but there is a difference. The lily that we were trying to catch, it was a I think open water and the muddy bottom. So when we look at an area when we're trying to catch the fish, we're farther out, so we should have a good chance of catching, you know, more rare legendary fish. And if we take a look here, and you can kind of do this in any location you go to, and I'll show you how. We have a couple different habitats here. We have the docks, we have the shoreline here, right? The shoreline kind of jumps across and around, and we have a muddy bottom. But if you look out, we also have open water in this location. And if we're looking at the water here, the way it's moving, it looks like it's slow water. Okay, not still exactly, because there's still like the slightest amount of ripple. So we have some slow water, open water docks. We have the shoreline and the muddy bottom here. And for rocky locations, you can either have the, you know, sharp rocks everywhere, or you can fish against these rock walls, and that counts as a rocky location from what I've seen and experienced. That might get fixed later though. So if we look back here, we're going to see that we have cattails location here. It's on top of a shoreline, and those rocks right there count as a muddy bottom. This right here is a dock spot, and checking the water, it looks like this might be slow moving water to still. The texture's kind of messing me up there. And a good spot, and I'll come back to spawn so I can get a better one here. Another good spot to go that has a couple habitats that we can analyze here is going to be back here. So you can jump up this rock, or, you know, you can just take the docks around. We're going to get up to here. We're going to walk. Now we're up top, which is crazy because even fishing from a spot up here, you can see that we're on a shoreline. Technically, it's rocky here. And it's woodland too. We got a bunch of trees. There's another woodland indicator, which hopefully I can find for you guys. There's another woodlands indicator where it's little wood pieces coming up that are hooked. I think I know where I can find them for you, but you'll see what I mean. So this right here is still water, right? So we have docks, still water. We have shoreline here, and it's rocky. I'm not seeing any muddy rocks or muddy platforms, so I think it's just that. But yeah, we have shoreline. If you come right over here, now the water looks like it's fast here. Got some cattails back there, but you can kind of get an idea about how these habitats stack. So if I come back here, we have docks. This might be, that's a rock. So we have docks here. We can fish on these edges and fish in a rocky spot. This is fast and open water, right? See how it's open here? If you see these shipwrecks here, that counts as float sim. I don't know if that's an actual habitat indicator, but float sim is like a broken shipwreck area. It's usually a precursor if it's a rocky area too. So keep an eye out for that. And I like this spot out here. Usually if you can get around to there, but there is a lot. Ooh, there is a lot of crates, coffins, refrigerators that always spawn back there. So it's a good spot to go and hit. If we come over here, we have the same situation. We got shoreline. There's some docks here. This is muddy bottom rocks, right? And when it comes to water pools, you have something like this. This counts as a water pool. Apparently, as long as you can jump over it, if it's something you can navigate and jump over, it counts as a water pool. So we got like a spot like this. We have open, fast water. We have cottontails. There's a water pool here, and it's rocky. And there's shoreline. So there's a couple stacked spots. But if you want a better example of how the water pools can look, we can jump back here. Yeah. Jump back here. Oh, this dude's still alive. Ah! Areas like this also count as water pools. There's a couple spots like this, especially in the spot with the Shadow Man. But we have a couple things here. We have, it looks like slow moving water. Yeah, slow moving water, maybe a little fast. We got cottontails, shorelines. You can fish against something like this and it'd be rocky. But all of that stacked together. So whenever you're look, and we got muddy bottom right here. Whenever you're looking for the fish, if it's a more of a legendary fish, you kind of want to go outwards a little bit, and you want to kind of analyze things like this. And then at that point, it's just pick and choose. You know, try a location. Like oh, this is, you know, it has some woodland features to it. We have a shoreline here on the docks. Maybe I'll fish like right here. And see if I catch that fish. You know, give it a little bit with the bait and the right rod and sit there. If you get nothing, okay, let's move on. Let's go a little bit further out, you know, and pick and choose. And like what you'll find, especially when it comes to fishing for dailies, you'll find a spot that has like maybe one of those habitat things. Like maybe you're fishing on top of a shoreline super far out from spawn, and you caught the daily legendary, and like you'll catch them. If you can catch it once in that spot, you'll catch them back to back. You know, minus that cooldown that happens. If you have a fish that like sun or bright lighting, it's going to look like that sun symbol. All you have to do is fish in spots like this. So you see how there's these lights here. If you fish next to those lights, or you can see how the sun's casting a sun ray. If you can fish over in the water over there where that sun is, or like right here or next to where it landed, where that sunbeam is, that's how you'll catch fish that have that sun requirement. And another good spot, if you go right out here, you can see how there's sun rays all over the place in the water. You want to fish in spots like that for the sun habitat. A precursor also with hitting the right habitat locations, it means you can catch it in any of these habitats, but obviously some habitats are better than others. And what I've noticed is sometimes whenever you're fishing just on one of the habitat preferences, where that fishing rod lands or where your bait lands seems to matter, right? So like if I was fishing in shoreline, if I casted like in the middle here, it might not count as shoreline. It might count as open water. So if it's not catching correctly, you can kind of reel it in a little easier and get it where that habitat's at. That's what I found through just my experience in fishing, especially for like the muddy bottom, the rocky. Like if you want it to be a rocky area, throw it next to a rock, and you know it has a better chance of showing up there. When it comes to like shoreline cattails, like being standing on top of that spot, dropping the bait a little closer seems to give me the return I'm looking for whenever I'm trying to catch that a fish with like that specific habitat. As the game updates, I imagine with quality of life improvements and better fishing improvements, there'll probably be more of a indicator, you know, a distance between where you're casting in order for it to meet there. Or it might just be able to count like, hey, there's a shoreline here, there's a muddy bottom here, here's docks, here's open water, here's slow water, and it can just calculate all of that together and it's fine. Okay, so other than you know, getting the bait landed where it needs for the habitat, or you know, choosing exactly what you need, whenever it comes to saving your bait, there's a couple tricks that could be fixed in the future, so keep that in mind. But there are a couple things we can. So let's get the grappling hook out for the example. But if I'm fishing, right, and maybe it's like too bad, or if I panic, or especially if you use like a grappling hook or infinite bait like the baited worm and stuff, if you press G, you'll cut your line, right? If I panic, something's bad, or maybe I cast it out and something's about to come get me, you know, like the alligator just spawned, or like Cthulhu's there, and it's like, ooh, panic, cut my line. Okay, but that does lose your bait. So what we can do instead, just so I can show you guys, I'll put on like a crusty gummy bear here. You can see it's on my rod. If I'm fishing and I'm fishing against, you know, a legendary, and maybe I don't have a good rod, or maybe it's, you know, it's gone out too far, or it's about to break, you know, maybe I'm reeling in way too hard, which when you do that, your rod will start to flash red. What you can do is right before that happens, hit escape, unstuck yourself. All right, the only thing you're gonna lose is maybe your location. You know, you don't have your cooler on you or anything, but like if you unstuck yourself, you're perfectly fine. It'll put you back in spawn, and look, I don't lose my bait, everything's fine. I also saw from Alex's video, if you guys have seen that guide, when you jump up and press escape, it kind of pauses you here. So if, you know, there's something bad, if there's a monster, something's a little too sketchy, or you don't want to lose your bait, unstuck yourself. I'm super bad at it. I don't have it as a good habit. I just kind of take the L because I forget in the midst of everything. But it is something you can do. Now, for all the people that are traveling and that are having issues, right? Let's say we're traveling with your fish. You have a huge haul, and you, like me, aren't looking at the ground, and you know you're gonna die, or maybe like there's a parkour section, and it's like, oh, you can get out easier if you like spam jump against a wall or something, and you don't know if you can do it. All you have to do, if you don't want to lose your fish, is just put it down, right? Put down the cooler and go do whatever you have to do. If there's a monster here and I want to throw down my enchanted decoy, or I just want to get rid of it, you can sacrifice yourself, throw down the decoy, and with that cooler down, if you go and die, you can see that my cooler's still going to be out there. So like if you, especially if you have like really rare fish and something's going on where you're about to die, or you don't know what's going on, you're panicking, press G, drop it on the ground wherever you're at, as long as it's not in the water. Go do what you have to do. That way, if you die, if something happens, you spawn back, and you can always go back and grab your cooler. It'll still have the fish, and you can go along in your journey. You can also do something with the enchanted decoy, right? So like I'll drop the cooler, throw out my enchanted decoy. If there's like a bat, a mosquito, an alligator, throw it out, and you know they're gonna go attack it, and it has a pretty far capture distance. Right when they attack it, you can scoop it back up so you're not missing out on all of them. Pick that up. There we go. And that's how you put down a voodoo doll and pick it back up. They go to attack it. If you have it close enough, you can just grab. And if you don't know where to get enchanted decoys, all you have to do is just look around for the crates, the coffins, the fridges, and you can pick them up from there. I had mentioned using my enchanted turkey leg. As you can see, I have a few enchanted ones, right? And you're probably wondering, Slaggy, I see in the recipe book I can make these enchanted things. Where is the enchanted witch, or how can I get to her easy? And also, how do I fish up junk? And this is something I dealt with a couple times. I'm trying to figure out, and I will actually put a snapshot from someone's super awesome fishing build slideshow, which I'll put in the YouTube video as well. I don't know who exactly made it. His name's on the file, but I'll put the screenshot here, and I will also kind of show you guys. So if we wanted to enchant something, let's see if I have a bait that I can enchant. Okay. Yeah, I got bald eagle feet. So if I was like, oh, I need to enchant my bald eagle feet, because if you didn't know, whenever you enchant a legendary bait, it not only can catch voodoo fish, but it's going to have a super high chance of catching legendary fish back to back. It catches super rare fish like always, and it only loses the enchantment if it catches a. So I want the bald eagle feet. I need sprockets. So there's a couple areas that you can go do this, and keep in mind, whenever you are fishing for junk, you always have to use a bottom reel. It doesn't matter what, if you're using the enchanted snappy or whatever, you're going to have to use a bottom reel. So I'm going to grab a pelagic bottom for this example. This right here, the enchanted snappy, this bait, and I'll show you guys how to make it. This bait will only catch junk at all times. So your goal is to try to get this, but until you can do that, we're going to do the baits for the requirements. So if I want to catch a sprocket, I'm going to take a daisy, and the best spot that I found sprockets is either fishing off the boat here with a bottom reel and a daisy bait, or if I go back out here, my favorite spot to do this is back in that, I think it's called Kraken Cove. This area right here is super awesome for doing this. There's a gator. I'm going to throw my daisy down there. There is a, you can wait, it's like, count the ripples or count 16 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Reel in. This is usually the best way to do it. All right, and look, I got a sprocket. So yeah, so fish with the daisy in this area or at the boat by spawn. And you get your sprockets, you know, you can store it up in your cooler. You can also fish up trikes here. What I found is fishing with this one, the Chernobyl, which is also in that little snapshot guide, Chernobyl special. This right here is super good for getting the trike. And we're going to go to the boat. You can also fish in Kraken's Cove for it. So we have our Chernobyl. We got our bottom reel. Yep. We're going to throw it in here. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up to 16. If you don't want to count 16, you can tab out, watch a YouTube, watch my guide, or, you know, do whatever. Oh, I caught a fish. So if you don't have the enchanted snappy, you're going to have to deal with fighting off some fish. I'm showing you guys with these examples so you know that this bait does work. But if you have the snappy, you won't have to worry about this. But until you can get the snappy, this is, you know, what you're going to want to be doing. That's 16. There we go, trike. So yeah, if you're not fishing with the snappy, you know, you're gonna have to wait a little bit, but that's fine. So I'm gonna store that trike because we're gonna use that to enchant our other snappy. So the best way to get boots is this one right here, and a common spoon bait. And I like to fish in this little spot right here, but I think you can fish right up here too. But we'll toss it in, give it the 16. All right, there we go. And that's how you get your boots. If you wanted to, I mean, you could sit here, especially if you have the enchanted snap, you can sit here and just fish up and sell the crafting stuff, but you don't get that much. Okay, so the last things we need are cinder blocks and skulls. The guide says for cinder blocks to fish in fast water with the s'more, which is this. I haven't had any luck with that. I actually like to use the enchanted snappy, and I will fish up over Kraken's Cove, and that's where I've been finding the cinder blocks. Honestly, the trike too. What you'll find is whenever you're using the specific bait for that scrap, you're most likely going to get the scrap. Whenever you fish with the little snappy, because it's enchanted and legendary, it's going to be picking up higher rarity scrap. So sprockets are common, trikes are uncommon, skulls and cinder blocks are rare, and boots are common. So if you're fishing with a snappy, you're most likely going to be picking up the higher legendary ones. I'm gonna grab a snap. I really don't want this guy to kill me. Hold on, hold on. Go on, get. Oh, what did I fish with? Yeah, let's get him out of here. Grab my snappy. Here we go. Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye. That is the alligator. We're gonna wait here. With the enchanted snappy, again, you don't have to worry about anything else biting except for junk. And as long as you're using the bottom reel with it, you're gonna be catching it. So let's reel in. There we go. Center block just like that. This is where I go for it. I'm not too familiar with any other areas. Fast water apparently has them, but like I was catching it right there, and that's still water. So I guess it's just up to what you're using. And then right here, so as you saw Kraken's Cove, I came down here. If you go on this dock, fishing out here is where you're going to be finding your skulls. So we're going to cast in. We're going to wait a little bit. Look at that. You got some money over there. And as you can see, if you look out, there's like a crate in front of me. I think there's a chest off to the right, another crate to my right, and something to my left. If you go out with a grappling hook and just take your time reeling those in till you can jump on them, you'll find decent bait. Honestly, I found a good bit of legendary bait. You can find reels and rods, usually in chests and coffins, and then coffins and fridges for the rods. But they have a super low spawn rate, but you can find them there if you don't want to spend the money. Just like that. All right, there's that skull. It also says a spooky inker can pick up skulls. I have found that fishing here with the inker has done it, but you'll also, you'll be picking up other fish. Luckily, the inker attracts some good sized fish. You don't have to worry about it. All right, so you came to the bait shop. You're like, I don't want to use these random baits and catch fish and stuff. And you saw that there was this bait here, a little snappy. It's a rare. It looks like a mouse with a little cheese thing. You grab this, and then we go fish up our trike with the Chernobyl from the boat here. And now we want to go enchant. So you can go, if you don't know, the spawn is basically, the whole map's a giant circle. So you can go left or right to get to any location. I'm going to show you my personal route for getting to the witch. So we're going to go this way. You do have to be careful. There is a wraith in the witch's area. The best thing to do is if you hear it, throw a decoy in its route, or just avoid it. What me and my buddy do is right when we get to here, I'll jump on this, go up this way, and if you're on top of these walls, the wraith can't get you, but mosquitoes and bats can. So I'll go here, I'll hop on this platform. You can also just kind of walk that trail. It's just it can be a little more dangerous. Oh look, there's a fridge here. There's a fridge here. Let's not jump on that guy. We'll come back for that fridge. There we go. And we're just down here. And as you can see, that little purple portal back here. We'll go ahead and hop on through it and break on through. No, wait a second, because I can never see when I get through that. I don't know why that's there. That kind of messes up the lighting really bad. All right. So we have our trike. If you're enchanting anything else with those recipes, you have whatever scrap you're using. But we're gonna take the trike, click enchant, and then we're gonna take whatever bait we're using. So I'm gonna be using the little snappy, enchant, and you can see right here that it works. Sometimes it doesn't work. That's an L you have to take. I don't think you lose the bait. I think you just lose the scrap. But we have our our little thing. Our cooler for some reason is gonna come back here. And that's how you enchant. That's also how you get the little snappy. I'm gonna show you guys what a fridge can give you, so you know what to be looking out for. What you can usually expect is you're gonna have crates like that that'll either have bait or money. Briefcases will either have bait or money. The treasure chest will have a little bit more money or bait. Sometimes reels, I think. The coffins will have bait, reels, and I've gotten rods from there. And then the refrigerators will have really good bait. Same with coffins, but really good bait, reels and rods. But the reels and rods obviously a little bit lower chance. So there's two things that we can do here. We can kind of position ourselves to sprint jump, but sometimes you can't make it. You know, maybe I can parkour up to there. Or what I've had to do sometimes is you can sit here. Ooh. Can I stand on this? I cannot. I still make mistakes, guys. Real quick, we're gonna get our grappling hook because you can grapple all these things. So like that, this right here. If I can't make that jump, which I could make the jump from the rock next to me, I can just pull them on over. We got 8 cents. Yeah. The coffins, chests, and refrigerators are heavier, especially the coffins and chests. So you can, if you wanted to, balance not breaking your rod or just re-breaking your rod and yanking a thing over and over, which I've done. You know, I could a couple minutes of it if I can't get the jump. So I want to show you guys that this is a possibility. You can always grapple these things. I mean, it's what the grapple's for. Yeah. Throw it on over to it. Look, I got it. And we can just sit here and kind of get it positioned closer or close enough to pull it. If you're fishing with friends, you can fish it or hook it with multiple people. So you can have a couple people yanking on it. It comes way faster. But yeah, I just kind of sit here like this. Bam. Okay, we got a daisy, enchanted voodoo, we got a cut skull. Not bad. Not bad. Yeah, sometimes you'll get some, most of the time, especially with refrigerators and coffins, you'll get a lot of rare bait, legendary bait with it. The last thing I want to cover is the enemies and navigating around them. So as you saw, I might cut back to him, but you have like the alligator right there. You hear that, the growl. He's gonna come a little closer. You see him right there. Yeah, you can throw a decoy down, or you can just leave. I'm just gonna leave. It's not too vicious. All the alligator does is he'll come up to an area. You can either avoid it, you can throw an enchanted voodoo doll and have him bite it, but if you don't, he'll reposition to you. If you see him look at you, you leave. If not, he comes and bites you. Where's the Kraken at? Come on. Oh, here he is. So, okay, so you have the Kraken here. You'll see the Kraken in a lot of areas, and if you hear that noise, it means that he's about to pounce on you. Usually, if you're out of the way, you know, you can get away with it by fishing on rocks like this. If you are in the water like this, or near, like on a shoreline, on a rock edge, he can grab you. You can just throw an enchanted decoy. Sometimes he doesn't leave, though. So, you know, just fish responsibly. We also have these guys. I didn't realize these were enemies. You have these Venus flytraps, and you can pretty much run right by them and you're fine. Now the issue is if you're fishing and you stand by them, they should. Yeah, see how they're... They'll get you though. You can dodge them, or you know, if you make the mistake, oh, I guess he doesn't want me. There we go. They can grab you. You don't really have to worry about them though, unless they become more aggressive. You have the mosquitoes, which you'll hear the buzz. It sounds like a bumblebee. A lot of times you can run from him. He's super slow. And then if not, you can place a decoy, have him grab your decoy back. All right. Mosquitoes coming in. Ink, ink. The bats are almost always sleeping. You'll hear it snoring. And if you hear it snoring, you can just avoid the area, or again, you can throw a decoy down. What I like to do is, especially if I'm traveling with fish and stuff, I'll put down my cooler, I'll decoy them, deal with it, grab my decoy back, and then I'm good. The other enemy you have is your wraith, or maybe it's a specter, but it's going to be over here. He's always in this area. Sometimes he's like right up here, which is super annoying, which is why I take this rock path now. But you'll see him. There he goes. Yep. You'll hear that do 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 do. You hear him moaning. You can't really avoid him if he's locked onto you, but if you run around with the doll ready, if you know you're going to be in that area, you can toss it down, pink, and have them bait that instead. And when they go attack, just grab it back. When they go attack, grab it back. And then we have the most annoying enemy by far, which I pretty sure had snapped me earlier. These guys right here. All right, I've died to these a million times. I'm sure a lot of you have. The biggest mistake to make is whenever you're going around, especially in areas where you have to jump a lot and stuff, not looking down the water, because if you didn't see, like, whenever he goes away, that just looks like grass. You have no idea. So listen for it. You'll hear that, or sometimes you just won't see it. The best advice I can give is to look down. Whenever these kill you, they don't go away. Anytime you start a lobby or you're in a lobby, these ones stay wherever they spawn. So you can bait it, and it has a little cooldown, but the best advice is as long as you're not directly on top of it, it won't be able to get you. So just keep an eye on the ground and try not to jump on them, you know, just skirt around. Okay, and last but certainly not least, we're going to be checking out the Bayou Slenderman, and I hear him. So if you ever stumble across this area, this is really the only region that he's gonna spawn in. And it's kind of like Slenderman. He doesn't move as long as you're looking at him, but if you're not looking at him, he will teleport around. There he is right there. Spooky. Yeah, he kind of guards this area. The best thing to do with him is to put down an enchanted decoy, or if you're traveling with friends, just have them, you know, you all take turns looking at him. I'm gonna throw my decoy down, and that will kind of keep him baited, I hope. There are certain spots that he can't get to, especially like further out here, where you can kind of fish safely. My favorite is I'll throw like a decoy around that spot, and I'll come up to right here, and he doesn't come here. I don't know if that's a bug. Maybe it gets fixed, maybe it doesn't. But I'll put my decoy down, come around right here so he doesn't mess with me, and start fishing. You can catch a bunch of voodoo fish around here. No, okay, it's not working this time. But you can catch some voodoo fish, the Eddie monster out here with the enchanted sneaky tickler. And whenever you want to leave, you pack up and get the heck out of Dodge. Not like that. Keeping an eye on him. As long as you're staring at him, it's like a weeping angel or Slenderman. As long as you're staring at him, he won't mess with you. Usually the decoy works. This time it didn't. And like I said, it could be patched in, you know, further updates to where you always have to look at them, but you can just fish in that area while looking in that direction. You'll be fine, or just bring friends. It's not that crazy. He can be combated pretty easily. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I really hope that's helpful, and if you guys liked this beginner's guide and you want some more tips, or maybe if there's an update and you need some better advice, or if you want to see another video of just tips and tricks with good fishing spots that I've found or that could be used to you, you know, like, comment, subscribe, let me know. And if I missed something, or if there's something that I explained that you can expand on to help other people understand this game more, please comment down, you know, help give the advice. But other than that, that was my beginner's guide. I really hope it helped you. It helped me being able to go out and grab the information. Until next time, I will catch you guys later.